Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, GCP, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
Ryan,
and Matthew.
Episode 336, recorded for January 6th, 2026. 2025, we were mostly right. 2026, the new prophecies. Good evening, Ryan, Jonathan, and Matt. Full house tonight.
Woo-hoo. Hey guys.
Hey. We only decided to take an extra week of vacation. So we're not too far behind. And luckily, the cloud providers decided to mostly take off the time too, which was really appreciative this year. Because I think it was last year, they just bludgeoned us to death after reInvent with Amazon stories. Because everything they did wasn't AI. They didn't announce that reInvent. They just dumped on us for the next 3 weeks. But since they did a better job this year, it was a little bit nice. But this is our annual look back at our predictions, make some new predictions, talk about our favorite shows. And then I've done a bunch of homework over my Christmas break. A bunch of work, and we'll talk about a bunch of that stuff today. Then we'll hit up some stories to wrap up the day, but lots to get into here. So Happy New Year. Let's get right into it. So predictions, we did pretty darn well. I think this is maybe the best we've done, actually. Looking at these, starting with Ryan, he predicted that we'd have quick LLM models for individuals, and I actually used LLMs to help me validate this data. So if you disagree, you can blame Claude. Basically, it came back and said it was accurate, and it basically pointed out Metalama 3.1 8B instruct, the GLM model, the Gwen model, chosen for having balance performance and computational efficiency make for an ideal for edge AI deployments, which is very nice. AI at the edge natively for Lambda, or Lambda asks that came out from Akamai. We saw that, as well as we saw it from Cloudflare and several others. And then Cloud Native Security Mesh, it said that was a bit unclear why they said there has been some evolution in service mesh technologies. It didn't find a breakthrough to help you on that one. So
I definitely wouldn't give me that point either.
So I don't think so either. Matt, this is probably your best prediction ever.
I think it was all of our best prediction ever.
In general, we did really well, but I was very pleased with both you and Ryan, who came in strong on both of these. You had Focus adopted by Snowflake or Databricks. That both happened. Alibaba Cloud, Databricks, and Grafana all officially adopted Focus, as well as Snowflake did. AI security and ethical standards, the ISO 42001 standard, basically got pushed out. Companies started achieving it, including my day job. And then even some of the cloud providers like Anthropic got their 42001 certification as well. And you predicted that Amazon would deprecate 5+ services. And, our little bit of research said Code Commit, Cloud9, S3 Select, Cloud Search, SimpleDB, Forecast, Data Pipeline, QLDB, Snowball Edge, and more. Although Workmail was not deprecated. So you missed out on that one a little bit. But that's okay. It's pretty good overall.
I'd take 19 pretty well.
Yeah. Jonathan predicted that company will claim that AGI is achieved, and I did not think this happened. But if they did research and said, actually, that's not the true. Integral AI, apparently founded by ex-Google veteran Jad Tarifi, claims to have built world-first AGI model in December of 2025. And Sam Altman called GPT-5 a significant step along the path to AGI when he released it. So I don't know who Integral AI is, and so it really depends on Jonathan if he feels that's a valid choice of giving him a point or not. But hey, someone claimed it. So he didn't say what company would claim it. He just somebody would claim it.
Well, I did say claims, not actually achieves. That was very strategic on my part.
Strategic on your part, yeah.
I'll take the point because I think we're close.
You also said AI.
I think an agent.
Yeah, I think
an agent working for days on end is not AGI necessarily, but I think we're getting closer and closer, especially with some of the work from like Jan LeCun on his world models and things like that. It's very interesting stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely some cool stuff going on in that area. You said AI agents will book reservations on real-world tasks. That is fully accurate. OpenAI's operator can do it. I actually tried out a service that was kind of an AI assistant that I used to book some stuff. I've seen it. Although a lot of them fall back on humans very quickly, you'll notice. And so they typically have some things. But it's there. So I agree. I think you got that one fully. And then models that can learn in real time, you were partially accurate there. And that comes from some of Claude's memory capabilities, some of the other things, but there's a lot more research happening in continuous learning, which is probably a 2026 prediction for somebody, I'm sure.
Yeah, I may repeat that one again this year.
For me, I had GPT-5, Cloud 4, and Gemini 3 all getting launched. That all happened. I said OpenAI will not be seen as a leader by the end of the year, which basically Google is starting to run away with it. Anthropic holds 30% of enterprise market space versus OpenAI's 25%, which is a sharp reversal from the 50% in 2023 versus 12 before that. And then Sam Altman, of course, issued the Code Red memo, which is what really kind of felt pushed me over the edge. That he sent a memo that they're losing market share tells me that they're concerned too. So there you go. And then I said 10 companies would go RTO 5 days after Q2. I was only partially accurate. I got a few, but not a lot of new ones other than the people who already announced when this prediction happened. So I'll take partial credit, but not a full point there. But yeah, overall, guys, we should have invested something in the process. So overall, I Claude's grading of this was A+ for Matt, A for Justin and Jonathan, and a B+ for Ryan. That was its overall score. So
Nice.
That's good. It only took us 6 years to know what the hell we're talking about. That's great.
Yeah, doing great.
I think it's actually the industry came to us with AI. It's become kind of predictable.
So, basically we had the break time and I was doing reviews, and during review time, I have to do things to make my brain not go scream into the ether of writing reviews. Not that I hate reviews, but it's just, they're mind numbing. Although AI was helpful with them this year. And so I decided that I was going to do a bunch of enhancements to bolts. And the thing I wanted to do mostly was come up with stats from the show. And so I shared with you guys back a couple weeks ago. Matt missed it, so you guys probably missed it too. But I posted basically a bunch of stats from 2025, and I'll post it again in our Slack room for you guys, so you have it.
Just saying, it's been a long couple weeks.
Yeah, that's fine. But basically, in 2025, we covered 1,308 stories from 15 different unique sources. And interestingly enough, cloud provider coverage-wise, Amazon still won at 39%. Azure was 22.9% thanks to Matt's insistence on adding more stories. And GCP was 38.1%, which I think is up in general. AWS official, GCP official, and Azure official, of course, lead most of our sources for news, although we do get news from Tech News and other different websites as well. We have a breakdown of all of our top domains where we got news from. But then the thing I was most interested in was I said, well, over the entire history of the show, what's the breakdown been? And so if you go back to 2019, when Peter, Jonathan, and Ryan and I started the show, we were doing 73% of our stories on AWS versus now 39%. We were doing 16% on Azure and 11% on GCP back in 2019. So, I mean, in general, I think we've become more balanced, which is sort of a win.
Mm-hmm.
We are still covering almost the same amount of stories. We back in 2019, we had the lightning round, we had other things. So I think that juiced some of the link counts, but we did 1441 in 2019. We did 1694 in 2020, almost 2,000 stories in 2021. And then, we've basically in 2024, we said we need to cut down on stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did. And that was noticeable in the numbers. So, hey, good job, guys. We actually cut stories now, which is good.
That's cool.
Which is good because the cloud providers continue to drive all of the stories after. So then I said, okay, well, about host participation, we did 49 episodes in 2025. I analyzed 42 of them. We only had 6 shows last year that had all 4 of us there. So a little bit of a struggle.
I've been Mike Trudent for the thing.
Yeah, but I apparently made 95% of the shows. Ryan made 85% of the shows, and Matt made 78% of the shows. I was surprised about Matt and Ryan's numbers because I feel like I'm always chasing both of them, and it's I either get one or the other. So it was higher than I expected there.
I had a kid. Just say it.
That's fair. I know. I'm not saying it's
and
bad.
I am a child.
Jonathan was in 12 episodes, and that was due to some personal stuff going on. But we did have one guest, which we do need to work on guests again. We only had Lise last year on episode 329.
That was fun.
So overall, Jonathan has some work to do. 2026, but overall, I think it's good. Take time off. You don't have to be at every show. Then I wanted to look at AI mentions and AI ML takeover. So AI was mentioned to 596 times in 2025, averaging 12.2 times per episode, or 66.4% year-over-year growth. So we are talking about more stories in AI for sure. And you can see it in the chart pretty clearly. 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, before AI was big, express ML stories. And then 2023, of course, it started to get bad. Jumping from less than a mention an episode to 4.5 times an episode to 7.3 times an episode to 12.2 times an episode. So that's little crazy. We talked about 19 outages in 2025. We talked about fiber and network infrastructure 12 times. And we had 5 major announcements for deep sea cables because we do love those. So there you go. We did 5 prediction shows. I was the 2025 champion. So thank you very much.
Nice.
I won reInvent 2025. Matt won Google Next 2025. Build came out to Ryan winning on the tiebreaker. And then I won Ignite. And then our annual predictions, Matt just won. So we just talked about it. So congratulations to Matt.
So did I tie you?
I think maybe so. But overall, for all time, I am leading 6 to 0 to 1. So in general, there is a bit of a bend here. But we'll get Ryan going there this year, hopefully.
Okay.
Running jokes and callbacks. Apparently, we use finally a lot in our show titles. 18 times we had a finally. Oracle arriving late to the party is a common joke we do. Rack Ryan, or the life-size AWS rack given to Ryan. We apparently mentioned that a few times over the years. ECS exec, my prediction for 2018 finally coming true was a big one. And then major cloud outages breaking the internet. Buzzword bingo for 2025, the hottest terms. MCP, which, I totally agree. Reasoning, agentic, multimodal, agent-to-agent, grounding, and vibe coding. And then of the 49 episodes, we did 58.9 hours of runtime. Our average length is 72 minutes. And our longest episode was 1 hour, 51 minutes. Wow. Episode 310. And our shortest was 31 minutes, which was our reInvent prediction draft show, which was a special episode. I do have to have an in memoriam service. We lost many services in 2025, including AWS Cloud Search, S3 Glacier, AWS Migration Hub, AWS Application Discovery Service, S3 Object Lambda, Healthomics Variant Store, Kubernetes Nginx Ingress Controller, Azure Consumption APIs, Azure AWS Connector, AOL Dial-Up Internet, and RC4 Encryption. And now for a moment of silence. Moving right along. Cloudflare bought Replicate, Atlassian bought DX, Cognition bought Windsurf, and Meta bought Scale AI, plus another one we're going to talk about today. And iRobot and Builder AI went out of business. One over fraud and one over not innovating, I guess. I don't know. And then cloud expansions, we had Azure and Google Cloud expansions in Atlanta, US Gov Arizona, Turkey, and Thailand. And then we had some aging poorly items, again, Builder AI and iRobot on top of that. Code commit deprecation, because that got rolled back. And then GitHub would maintain and depends under Microsoft. That also has not aged well, as Microsoft has now pulled it fully into the fold, unfortunately. Most mentioned non-hyperscaler companies, OpenAI, of course, NVIDIA, Anthropic, Snowflake, Databricks, Cloudflare. And then we had a bunch of titles that we almost went with. 633 rejected titles, partially because AI helped us with titles this year. But, there was several that the AI thought were the best of 2025, including From Roomba to Toomba, which was quite good. Right. Not So Fast, it always helps you find gateways doing absolutely nothing. Fast and Furious, AWS lays 320 terabits of cable across Atlantic, and many more. And we'll include these in the show notes so you can see all of them. But a little bit of stats, guys. There you go. And there are a couple of things I learned about doing this project. LLMs don't really help you in most of this. This is a lot of ML Python code. Yeah. So getting like analysis on something, the LLM really helps you out a lot, but anything else is really just counting metrics. And to do this, you need transcripts and show notes and all kinds of things. And so as part of building this all out, I built out a brand new ML data pipeline for the Cloud Pod. So as we publish our shows, we're now getting official transcripts. We're getting it all uploaded to the website. And that's all going to go into our new Bolt-based AI search. So you can now talk to Bolt. You can chat with him just like any other LLM. He will remember your conversation, and he will use our vector search off of S3 to identify where we talked about things. So you can ask him all kinds of questions. He's available to you, of course, and our Slack team. So if you have not joined our Slack and you want to come ask questions about how many times Jonathan says he loves AI or GPUs, you can go ask those questions of the Bolt, and he will tell you, which is kind of fun. And so he's out there, and we'll be keeping that up to date all year long so that, A, when I do this next year, I don't have to do as much work. But number two, that we continue to build our repository. So when we have these questions in the show, like, hey, what did we talk about last week or a month ago, or did we talk about this before? We can just ask Bolt, and he will tell us very kindly, which is really nice. So I can talk about that if you guys are curious about building an AI chatbot and LLMs with vectors. I learned a lot. I learned what it's good at, and I learned what it's not good at, as well as how some of the idiosyncrasies of doing that kind of stuff is quite interesting.
I'm more curious how you remain focused on a single project. Because I see you doing some dates. I see you doing the bug fixes and things. Like, if it was me, I'd like, I get it 90% working, and then it's like, nah, whatever. Move on to the next thing.
Well, so there's a couple things in my vibe coding that I do a lot, right? I have tests. I always have tests, and I always have a very clear direction of what I want it to do. And then I just let it kind of do its thing, and then I go review it when it's done. And I make sure it works. I also have the superpower that Ryan's always talked about, is that I can keep a lot of things in the air at any given time. So I have 5 or 6 Claude windows going at any given time with different projects or different things I have ideas of, and I just kind of bounce around them all the time. So that's kind of just my superpower at work. But really, I do write very clear AI instructions, very clear tests, and everything I write has tests. So basically, I can not break myself as I go through the process.
Cool. I'm fascinated by the sort of like, because I'm having a similar experience mostly in my day job, which is like trying to use AI for different workloads and then falling back into more traditional technologies or different ways. And at first I thought it was like, just like old dog, new tricks, trying to like just falling back into comfort zone. But I find more and more I'm identifying things that, the large language models just are not good at. Right. And I think a lot of stats and the metrics, and it feels like it should be able to do that, right? Because it's conversational, and it's, you're building a corpus of data for it to, for the model to query and do all that. But that it really can't, right? And so fortunately we do have, machine learning technologies and the ability to do notebooks and stuff. And Agentic can absolutely help you make the notebook, but it can't actually do the analysis for you, which I find funny. So.
Well, and it's fun because I've always said at ML problems, it's always, the challenge is not the technology. It's always like, what question are you trying to answer with the data that you have? And that actually is even true inside of AI.
Uh-huh.
It's the same problem, but worse in many ways. Because it's like, like for example, in the 2025 review, at the end, it gives you analysis of why it thinks those topics titles are the best ones. And it gives you a 3 thing. And that makes sense for AI to do that, because it can use natural language, and it can use SEO, and it can use things it can compare to, and it can come out with good answers. But to like figure like how many episodes was Matt at this year is not a AI problem. It is purely a, ML problem. Like, oh, I need to know a data source of how do I know Matt was in an episode or not in an episode? How do I know who was there? And so, luckily Heather does a really great job always typically mentioning in the intro to our show notes who was on the show that day. Mm-hmm. So because of that, I was able to get pretty good data on that. And the reason why there's 6 episodes that don't have that data is because it wasn't mentioned in those, which is fine. So to fix that, in the show notes, I now have added who was here today, so I can track it. And then when it does the processing for the show, do the YouTube updates and do all the other things I do for the show posting, it'll now update the vectors on Amazon S3 to do that. Which going through S3 vectors was actually a lot of interesting fun, because number one, it's not very well documented in the APIs or Terraform or anything. Yeah, I know, shocker. And so like, Claude, I have to want to go back to like, well, no, you need to use knowledge base. And I was like, okay, well, I'll try knowledge base. I tried to set that up for 25 minutes and I was like, this is too slow. I can't do this. And the worst thing about knowledge base is it doesn't have a Terraform module, has no ability to do anything Terraform. And when you're in the website setting it up, you have to stay on the web page for it to actually complete. And if you move away, it stops. I'm like, well, that's just silly.
That's awful.
So, but it's interesting because it's like, oh, a lot of this just becomes very, very clearly, the tools that you've had for a long time, which is, kind of some of my thinking about predictions and the AI bubble and what we're talking about. I'm like, yeah, it's not AGI. Maybe AGI changes things even further, but right now it has a limited capability of what it can and can't do. It can definitely do a lot of cool stuff, and it has a lot of value in a lot of different places, but it is not like these companies that have laid people off in favor of, AI replacing their jobs. I'm not sure that's going to pan out long term.
I don't think so. I think they're going to get burned and have to, I think a lot of companies will be able to pivot. So I don't, I think it's the people that are hurt are the ones in the short term, and then the hiring market will get good again when people start to realize their mistakes. But it's not a replacement. It's a tool. It's a tool,
and it's a tool, and companies are also just doing it to shed some expenses too, and using it as an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be painful in a few years' time, because AI is taking away the level 1 jobs, the tier 1 coders, and people aren't going to go into that industry because they think, well, what's the point? I'm not going to get a job. AI is already doing this. A senior engineer can now do the job of 5 or 6 different people, like Justin with his 5 different Claude windows open. I think in a few years' time, maybe 5 years' time, it's going to be a bit of a shit show.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to have the people to replace the people who are now doing the work. I mean, who knows? Maybe we won't need them at that point anyway. Maybe maybe Skynet will have taken over anyway.
I think you're further out than that because you have enough people that are still coming in and doing it. And you'll see people, I think, mainly skip that tier 1 and try to attempt to go directly into it. But you're not going to lose people that fast. Like, you're not having a 64-year-old on average be a senior software developer and leveraging these tools, just on average here. So you're not going to see that.
I wonder if it goes the other way. If you think about like new college grads and hiring, new college grads for interns, right? Like they come in, they're super green. You got to teach them everything anyway. And I wonder if the tier 1 just has a completely different skill set, right? Like it will be vibe coding. But
right. That's what it's going to be. Your tier 1's going to just be straight vibe coding. I have no idea how to do this, how to do the initial part.
Yeah, I think to be a good vibe coder, you need to be an experienced programmer, or you need to have business experience. I don't think the people who are vibe coding right now are getting very good results if they don't have that kind of background.
If you don't know the basics of what you're trying to do, then it's going to give you bad code and it's not going to work. And, and then like there's things about architecture and making sure you understand how things are supposed to work. And like, especially if it gets into loops, like a lot of times my feedback to the agent is like, why are you doing that? That's a silly way to do this. Why don't you think about doing it this way or that way? And it's like, I hadn't thought about, and so I'm giving it guidance on my experience and what I've done in the past. It's interesting because even my uses of Claude over the year has evolved. I think at the beginning of the year, I was very big into Roo code and using some of those tools. Moved into Claude, really like Claude. Now I'm starting to get more into agents and letting agents just kind of go do things based off of, a master, context set that I'm managing and saying, okay, now is agent go do this thing, come back when you have it done with my tests passing. And then it comes back and then I can review that code as a pull request. So there's definitely evolutions to it. And I just was just reading through the guy who actually wrote Claude for Anthropic. He just had a Twitter feed where he was talking about how he uses it, and he uses it a different way than I use it. And I'm like, oh, well, some things he's doing actually sound kind of cool, and I want to learn more about those. So I've got some homework to do. I finally started playing with Warp. So the other project I did, I don't know if you guys have noticed, the CloudPod website has been updated.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, looks great.
It does.
Mm-hmm. That was Warp and I spending some time. Like I never built I hate PHP, but number 2, I have never built a WordPress theme from scratch. And I was looking at buying a new template because I was like, it's kind of getting dated. We need something new. And I just basically went to Warp and I was like, hey, I'm looking to build a really cool podcast website update with the WordPress theme. And here's some examples of ones I've seen on the internet that I like, and create me something. And so when we, designed it together, and basically we built out what the CloudPod website redesign looks like. So that's pretty cool. And, definitely a lot of fun things to do. And, one of the things I was really interested in doing was making it really good for mobile. And so one of the things for mobile is now it actually responds really well on mobile devices, where the old theme did not. And then actually I also revamped some of the newsletter pipeline as well. So we've always traditionally just sent out our email of the week's show notes to our email list. And, we have a few hundred subscribers on the mail list. It's not a big audience, but I was like, well, it'd be kind of nice if we added some more personal flavor to it. So now Bolt's going to ping you guys in the room and say, hey, last week's episode just got posted. Any thoughts about last week's episode? And you guys can talk to it, and it'll write a little blog post and put that on top of our newsletter as well. So, you don't have to do it, but it's something if you want to be more interactive.
Somehow we all got more work to do.
Yeah, that's how it works.
You just delegate it to somebody else. AI.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have AI write it. I'm just having him bug you to say, hey, do you have any thoughts about last week's episode? And, you can say whatever, or like, yeah, I really like, I was really thinking about what Ryan talked about with container security and, whatever. But because there's always like, one of the things I always read the show notes. I always listen to the episode. I always have thoughts after the fact. So it was like, well, this might be kind of fun. And since there's enough time delay between when we publish versus when the newsletter goes out, there's some opportunity there. So it won't happen every time, but you can definitely check out when one of us posts something about it. So. All right, that's a lot. That's all my my vibe coding of Christmas break.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's amazingly productive.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I think I cleaned a room and installed.
You were doing remodeling.
I was doing home stuff.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. Yeah. Definitely cannot get that done.
I did not know what a computer was for a few weeks, which was kind of great.
Yeah. Which is kind of nice too. Yeah. All right, well, the other homework I gave you was I gave you our 500-page archive of every story we covered in 2025. And the homework for you all was to come up with your favorite episodes. And some of you did the homework and some of you didn't. So some of you are going to be frantically looking through the archive as we talk. We're not going to do this in any order in particular. I'm just going to jump in with them. And so the first one that I really enjoyed was Amazon saying F you to Microsoft over their security. In episode 287, basically, Amazon refused Microsoft 365 deployment because of lax cybersecurity, which was just fun for Amazon to poke Microsoft right in the face. Like, your security sucks. I thought that was a fun story. I remember us talking about it on the show. It was a good time talking about it as well.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was great. I wonder if they ever followed up on that. Did Microsoft ever fix their problems? Did they go back on the plan to implement it?
You know, I tried to do a little bit of research on this, and I meant to do more, and I failed to do so. But yeah, I thought there was a follow-up article at some point that we almost talked about on the show, and then I didn't. But yeah, I'll do some homework on that because it might have happened, or might not have.
I think one of my favorite stories was around a tool that I dislike, and I've always disliked, but Microsoft or AWS killing Chime. So Chime was dead.
Hooray.
They said, we're done, we're out. And I was very happy. Granted, I don't have to deal with Microsoft support AWS support that often, or my AWS tab where I had to be on those fun-filled tools, but I've had a lot of pain with those tools over the years. I was very happy to see it was dead.
That's cool. I think my favorite is actually a reinvent thing, which is the Frontier agents from AWS. It's such a shift in the way people think about using agents. We're not just prompting them individually to go do a particular thing. It's literally goal-based direction. And the Curo agent, which is the developer, and the security agent. I can't remember the third one. I think it's a DevOps type agent, SRA. I just think that's it's a great evolution of the technology. I'm really excited to see how that carries on developing.
Well, that's a nice segue into mine, because what's underpinning of all of that is the agent-to-agent protocol that Google announced, and that's my favorite for the year, just because I was really happy to see a standardization come out that worked across everything and wasn't specific to a single ecosystem or cloud scaler or all of those things. And I really do feel like it's accelerated agent-to-agent workflows, and I think that the agent-to-agent workflows has finally made agentic AI kind of useful for me, like where it's more than just a sort of a novelty act. And I was trying to decide whether it was agent-to-agent or MCP, but I think agent-to-agent stands out just a little bit more for me. Pretty cool.
I think in general, though, all those, the fact that this is such new technology, and if you think back, even 10, 15, 20 years ago, technologies would, competing technologies would have completely different implementations. They wouldn't talk to each other. And I think what's really interesting about the way AI has been going the past couple of years is we're getting these standards which competitive businesses are adopting jointly, because they know that to get support from the ecosystem and to get user adoption, they need to be able to support the same things. So we have OpenAI being the standard for the API, although Anthropic's got a slight variation on that. Then we got MCP, we've got the tool calling standards. Now we've got the agent-to-agent stuff. I think it's really interesting that they're converging on a common way of speaking to each other while working on their own proprietary implementations of the models themselves.
Yeah, it's more akin to to the development that was going on in like the 70s, like early internet days, and and continuing into the 90s. It's crazy.
It seems very collaborative, even though they're obviously competitors, and somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. But they still seem to be a lot of collaboration, and there's a lot of public research still going on, which surprises me. I think there's a lot of research going on which is not public, especially around AGI and around how to do online learning and things like that. But yeah, exciting.
Another one that I did enjoy, Amazon coming out with Nova, even though it's a trash model that no one uses. I like the underdog story in general, and I appreciate that they're trying, and I'm curious to see if it gets anywhere this year at all. But yeah, they did announce some updates at reInvent. I have not had a chance to go benchmark it myself, but yeah, it's a sort of fun little piece that I'm curious to see how it goes.
It's so underused. I don't know if the model sucks. Like, no one complains about it. I sure haven't used it. Yeah.
It's just not used. That's why.
Yeah.
They've launched it. There's like one GPU sitting in US East 1.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they need for the whole thing.
Yeah. It could be amazing. We'd never know.
Yeah, it could be the best.
Yeah, it's hard to want to use it in a way because now we've got Claude and OpenAI, and ChatGPT for cloud-based models, and then you've got GPT OSS, even a like 120 billion parameter model you can download for free, or a 30 billion model from Qwen or DeepSeek. It's really hard for somebody like Amazon to come along and say, "Hey, just use this thing." But it's got no kind of no selling point. It's just, okay, look, we've got a model too, but there's been no effort seemingly into what does it do differently? Like, why is it better? Why should I touch that instead of something else at this point? I think they've kind of failed a little bit there. They need to, if they were able to use it, they're going to have to make it worth using. But my other favorite announcement from last year really was DeepSeek coming along and stirring things up. I mean, NVIDIA's stock sliding tremendously. That was just after release of ChatGPT 5, maybe, or something. Was it 5? 4? I don't know which one it was.
I think it was 4. It was
4.
Yeah.
The thinking model, when the DeepSeek just appeared on the scene and like, hey, we've got this thing. It's just fantastic. It's just wonderful that so many people could be working on this in the background and make these releases just to shake up a whole industry. I do like to see the world burn sometimes.
We are a bunch of cynics.
Yeah,
I mean, he does. I mean, as long as you shorted the stock of NVIDIA, we're fine.
Yeah, looking back over the predictions, the reason me and Ryan are not always getting the points is because we kind of secretly hoping for the doom scenario sometimes. I think.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true.
I think that's part of one of my predictions for this year. I also want to go with a sad story, but it affects, I would assume, all of us traumatically, which is, GitHub is going to start prioritizing the migration to Azure and the upcoming outages that will all ensue because of Azure.
The outages.
Yeah. So it looks like it was about episode 317. It wasn't that long ago, but I'm like waiting for all the outages to start to happen on GitHub. And they already have a lot of minor ones of like actions or like small things, but I'm waiting for the major one of like, front door crashing and all of, GitHub is down for days and just watching the whole world freak out because nothing works anymore. Speaking of being cynical, sorry.
I mean, it's already had like 2 outages in December or
Yeah.
November that were pretty impactful to the day job. So
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to that actually. So
Yeah. And it's going to continue. I don't know if we're going to get the big one, or at least, I hope not.
No.
But I do think that the little ones, this like kind of minor interrupted ones, like I think we're going to see that over the next 2 years. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of small outages. I don't think you're going to get the big ones because hopefully they've built, especially at the scale that they're at, enough, redundancy and, decouple their services that you're not going to see that massive cascading outage.
Hopefully. They haven't done that, but we can hope they did.
Yeah, we'll see.
Luckily, GitHub is relative, or Git in general is relatively distributed, so maybe they have some better choices for DR. Well, I actually, this story got me thinking because Jonathan decided to buy a video card that can run AI models locally, and then I've been kind of on a mission now. Like, I kind of want to do it myself because I'm spending a lot of money on Anthropic tokens. And so I was looking through the thing. I was like, oh yeah, the Digits computer from NVIDIA, which they did actually ship, and they actually rebranded it to something else. But I was wondering this week at CES if they're going to have a new version of this coming out with maybe a newer processor. But yeah, this ended up becoming the DGX Sparks, which has a GB10 Grace Blackwell superchip with a petaflop of level performance, all available to you. And you can connect 2 of these together on your desktop. They do cost a pretty penny. So I did not buy one for Christmas for myself, although I think about it. And I have been picking Jonathan's brain about what he bought, so I might follow his suit. But, the whole idea of like, well, these AI models are getting good enough that I might be able to get one at home that I don't have to pay quite as expensive for might be really cool. So definitely Jonathan's inspired me. We'll see what happens next year or later this year.
To be fair, I still pay for my Claude Max subscription on top of what I have locally as well. Because they are completely entirely differently.
I feel like you need to build a router that all your stuff goes through, that like what needs to go to Claude, and like you just fan out that way. Like some will hit local, some will hit Claude, and be cost optimized.
I mean, I have my Claude subscription, and then I also use Bedrock Claude because I got tired of paying by the drip. So I just part of my monthly Amazon bill now, which can get expensive if you're not careful. So do keep an eye on that. Budget alerts are important. But I am sort of noticing there is some deprecation happening. Like the Claude Code has a new Chrome plugin that can control Chrome, which is really cool. But that only works with the official Anthropic APIs right now. And so I'm hoping that's just because it's beta, and when it comes GA, they'll add it to Bedrock so I can do it without having to continue to max out my Max subscription to Claude as well. But because I also have that as well. So
Yeah.
and then of course, because I'm talking about Claude 4, which came out in September, has been amazing. I mean, Claude Sonnet 3.5 was great. Claude 4 and then Claude 4.5 Sonnet are just so good. And Opus, and the Opus price drop was such a huge thing. I mean, I went from like, oh, I don't want to use Opus unless I have a really tough problem, to like, I don't mind using it as much. I mean, it's still expensive, so I don't use it too much, but I don't cringe when I have to go use it now. It just stings a little instead of like, ow, that really hurts. So I do really appreciate that.
I think finally adding conversation compaction has really helped as well, because now you can have much longer conversations in the web UI with both Sonnet and Opus.
Yeah.
And it does a pretty good job of the auto compaction too. So it keeps most of the primary, important parts of context available to you. But I still recommend writing your context out to like your to-do lists to file. Because you will sometimes lose, especially in a really long running conversation, which is one of the things I learned as I vibe coded more was you don't want really long conversations. You want short conversations, which is why I have so many windows, and I'm resetting and clearing context whenever I change thought processes or tasks to make sure I don't have that risk.
See, my problem is I get distracted because I have a really good idea and I forget to type /clear, and then I get mad. But I'm like, oh, how am I running out of space? This is the 16th topic I've thought of. Oh, I forgot to clear it. God damn it.
It's a make cool code.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a compacted conversation, always give it instructions. I know you don't have to give it instructions, but if you give it instructions to tell it what to remember and what's not important, it makes so much difference.
Yeah, learning how to use CloudMD and making sure it has those things, because it uses it quite often. And then also like repetitive things that you do often, you can turn into commands. So like you're doing a git commit and PR now. I just have a Claude command I run for that. I don't even ask it anymore. I just type /git PR and it just creates it for me. So there's like things like that you can do. So like little snippets of code that you use often with Claude, you can do that. Or like the linting process that I do. If I don't put it into the pre-commit hook, I'll just have a Claude command I just run. And then when you get into agents, it's all about having very clear contexts for each agent, what you want it to do, and giving it source. Like here's reference material you might need. Here's what I want you to do. Here's the task, and here's the test that I want you to accomplish.
I think you're like a couple weeks ahead of me. I didn't get that long period of time during this holiday to go work on all these things. I've like dabbled in agents. I've dabbled in these things, but I haven't put all the pieces together in my head yet. So you and I will have a long conversation, Justin.
Yes, we should do that. And we should just have an after show about it one day, actually, probably. Because our listeners probably
it might be a dedicated show, because it's like, I think we have a lot, right? Because we all have different workflows, and and I think this is true about all of us. I'm a little proud of mine, right? Like I've put a lot of work into how I set up my environment and how I do things, and like I like the output a whole lot. And it's kind of cool.
I think I've realized that there's a couple of things I really like about the whole LLM coding assisted world that we're in now. It's like it doesn't have to be one way. Like where you're in old patterns, like you always had to be like, I had to fit into this pattern or I don't work. And at least now you can be a little more flexible. But also because there's so much innovation happening and there's so many good ideas and plugins. Like I was just reading about Wiggum, Ralph Wiggum extension for Claude, which basically is, it's I can't really describe it yet because I'm still working on what it does exactly. But it assumes it's in danger, and so it continuously runs the same prompt against itself multiple times. To basically, and then it compares the answer across multiple of the same prompt, and then combine the answer into one outcome, which is kind of cool. But like there's a really good use cases for that. Or like today I was reading on Twitter.
That's what the security agent does. That's what the Anthropic security one. It like spawns like, I think it's 5 agents, run the scans, and gives you like the 80 percentile of all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Or like even, hey, I did a bunch of vibe coding, and now I channel my inner Jonathan Baker, and I say, you're a really anal principal engineer who hates everything I do. What don't you like about this architecture? What would you change? And it gives me a bunch of feedback, and then I basically do it again. And then I use Ryan's personality to like, okay, now I'm just an asshole, and what don't you like about it? And between the two of them, I get really good feedback on my code, and it's great. And it's just like talking to both of you sometimes. I'm
This
like,
is
oh,
fantastic.
yeah.
It's actually the agents called Ryan and Jonathan on his local Cloud
Yeah,
Code
I
server.
I
it might
mean,
be, yeah.
It's in one of our other chats. Like you've got a pretty good representation of me, and so put them in AI form. It's pretty bad. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah, checks out. Yeah, you got others, Matt. All right.
I had a slew of like just quality of life things. I feel like there was a lot of little ones.
There was a lot of
this
good
year.
quality of life this year.
Like both Azure and AWS released regional nets. Granted, like for AWS, it's still one per thing, but it's just less to manage because it's always been a pain in the butt to kind of manage each individual thing. ECS actually increased the exit code, so you actually don't have a real exit code versus here's 255 characters, but the Rail parts at the end, God forbid to use Java where it's just never in the exit code. I also had things along the lines of Beanstalk, because for some reason they still exist, can directly retrieve from Secret Manager, which was just a nice quality of life versus environment variable, look up your environment variable, shove it in, to figure out which secret manager secret it is, et cetera, et cetera. Blue-green actually built into ECS. You don't have to set up everything all the way to code deploy, which I thought was a nice quality because for my home little projects, it's nice to have that versus just normally what I do is I just tell it to kill the container and replace it because no one actually hits anything I make.
yeah. No one uses ECS versions, like task versions.
No.
Because they're so hard to work with.
You just override them. The other one for GCP, which I think we've all hated ourselves at one point in our day jobs, choose a cloud, is migration of buckets from one region to another. Because I've definitely all have been there where somebody launches something large in one region and you have to move it versus setting up another one. And God forbid somebody did something completely illogical, like hard code the bucket name into an application that you can't change without full application deployment. Definitely have never dealt with that one before.
I haven't in a while.
Yeah. That's because you're in
Wait,
security now, Ryan.
That's true.
I gotta go back here. So you don't use task versions in ECS?
No. I mean, for actual versioning, no. I mean, you have to use a task version, but I don't have like.
I mean, I use it in my. That's why I have CI/CD
I
pipelines
too.
just to take care of it because I don't want to think about it. So it
Mhm.
just automatically downloads last task, does whatever update to the container version I need. Container version I'm updating to, and then it pushes a new version of it, and it deletes the last anything older than 2 prior versions of my task definition. I don't think about it beyond that, but
But do you roll
I'm
out?
more impressed you clean up.
Yeah, it's the ability to sort of roll out versioning. Like it's you can.
I mean, it's clunky because I feel like the Docker container version is already sort of solving most of the needs. So the task version feels redundant to me. That's why I just build automation. Don't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
But
It's useful if you have like environment variable changes and stuff like that you need to roll out kind of coordinated.
yeah,
But
I mean, again, like I'm doing most of that through parameters now. And so it just doesn't matter to me that much.
Well, that's basically what we're saying is that we don't really use the
Yeah.
functions of task versioning. We just.
I mean,
sort
but I'm
of-
forced to use it. So
You
that's why I
have
was
to
like,
use a task version.
Okay.
Yes.
Because if I could just overwrite the existing task version, I would just do that. But it won't let me do that. So there's hundreds of
that
versions
just to
out there.
really prove I did the homework. I had a fun list of announcements that were just released. The
Nice.
Terraform plugin for Domino's Pizza Provider. I just
Yes.
thought
Oh, yeah,
that
that's
was
fun.
still.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. Terraform for provider for Oracle database at Google Cloud, because when you want to burn money, that's a great way to do it. Microsoft has both announced the solved quantum computing chips, and then everyone said, no, you didn't, and prove it. And they said, well, we didn't really, but we're close.
And they kind of disappeared on that whole thing.
Yeah.
There was a lot of noise and nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Crickets.
So I started at the bottom and I scrolled up. It was like replaying the whole year in my head of like all the stories. So it was kind of fun doing it. Microsoft surprises MS-DOS fans with remaking the ancient text editor that actually works on Linux. Just kind of fun. The quantity of undersea cables, which you've already identified. I think there was like 6 or 7 that are sending petabytes and petabytes. And I always just like the Prime Day announcements. That's the nerd in me, hearing the number of SES and SQS and SNS messages and EBS, volumes that they've used and how many, dolphins they killed that year during Prime Day announcements due to global warming. It's always fun to kind of hear those announcements.
Yeah, the trillions of DynamoDB calls in a day, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's always awesome to hear. Cool. Well, thank you for doing the homework about Relate Speak extra long, just to get these out.
You're welcome. I was sitting there with not able to leave my daughter's room for many hours one night, and I just scrolled through it and copy and pasted.
Good for you. That's
Let
great.
me tell you,
Yeah.
scrolling through 500 pages of a Google Doc on your phone, one, Google Docs doesn't load it very well, and two, scrolling through it takes a long time.
Yeah, Google Docs does not do well with large documents like that.
No.
No, it does not. And that's why we give a new document every year for archive, because every one of them is that long, which is what was fun with doing all the analysis for the AI and the vectors was I had to parse all of that data and put it into vector format. It took a long time. All right. Let's do our 2026 predictions, and then we'll probably wrap it up for this episode per Brian's suggestion.
Yeah. I didn't check the message, but I was hoping that's what it was.
All right. We did roll before the thing to do your predictions. And so, Matt, you rolled first. And as the winner of 2025, I do think it's fair that you should be first. High expectations.
I don't really want that still. I have a couple, some that are less nice than others, but I think I'll start on just kind of a sad one. I feel like there's been a lot of major outages across the vendors recently, and it's time for GCP to step up and get some hug ops here. And I'm predicting a outage for GCP this year.
Thanks.
Thanks
You're
for
welcome.
that. I really appreciate it.
I thought you guys would.
Is it going to be caused by AI, though? That's the question.
Yeah.
Will it be the first RCA that goes out because an AI agent did something it shouldn't have done?
It's just kept scaling up until there was no more scale to go up.
All right. I'm up in a second. So I have two thoughts in the world for 2026. Either it's going to be a massive recession and we're all going to hate everything, or it's not going to be so bad. And so I'm going to try to go with some positivity here and say it's not going to be so bad. And because it's not going to be so bad, there's going to be a lot of AI layoff regret, and we're going to see a return of hiring in 2026. So that's what I'm hoping for. I fear it may be the other way, which one of you may predict as well.
I had that. I'm
But
not
we'll
gonna
see.
lie. That was the other one I was gonna go with.
I do have another negative one I could use as well, but we'll continue if it's still on the table when we get back to it. But yeah, but I am hoping to see AI layoff regret and companies coming kind of back to some hiring in the world. So that's my hope. Although Venezuela makes things more complicated
Sure
all of a
does.
sudden very quickly. So. All right, Ryan, you're up.
All right. I think that the multi-agent orchestration is going to blow up in a big way. And, just to be a little specific, because that's a little obvious, I feel like the major providers are going to announce more of an agent-to-agent integration that's more native, in the sense of like the workflows naturally tying together between like Vertex AI, Bedrock, whatever Azure has. And, where it's more of an easy button and not something that you sort of have to set up and 3 different ways and then plug it together and do all the scaffolding yourself. I think you'll start seeing that even beyond the hyperscalers, where you'll see that agent interaction with providers as well, where you can just naturally have sort of an agent workflow or a multi-agent orchestration workflow that just uses agents from larger companies and cloud providers.
It makes me wonder. That's a really good prediction. It makes me wonder how long it will be before we have like a business to business, AI to AI type protocol, where my business wants to talk to your business, but we delegate those tasks to the machines to do the negotiation or something. You can imagine the first multi-million-dollar contract negotiation being performed entirely by LLMs or agents of some kind.
Wow.
Be kind of cool.
That would be cool.
That is not my prediction for this year.
No.
What is your prediction for this year? Your first one?
I think that the negative one is I think there will be a major. I was say major, because you're such a stickler for these details. You write down every single word and hold me to it at the end of the year. I think there will be a highly visible company bankruptcy due to the rising costs of AI inference. perhaps a popular company, a well-known company or well-liked company will go under because of the rising costs of providing the service they're providing and will no longer be able to provide the service.
That would be pretty bad because that would also probably mean where the AI bubble is real and someone's overextended.
It's absolutely real.
I mean, based on my research of just the last 3 weeks doing vectors, I'm like, yeah, this has some limitations. So, yeah. All right, Matt, your second prediction for 2026.
So, given that Microsoft decided this year they solved quantum computing and nobody else has, and then magically stepped back on it. And I don't know if this is going to be positive or negative. Positive as we will get new technology, but negative as half of encryption protocols all die over at that point. I'm going to predict a step forward in quantum computing.
A quantum leap, if you will.
There we go. There's the show title right there.
Nice.
A quantum leap into 2026. There you go.
I was curious when we were talking about Marjana, and I was like, it's been a while since I looked that up. And yeah, it's basically been radio silence since March when we first talked about it. There just has been nothing in the press about it at all, other than Microsoft's continuing to stand by their statement. So.
I'm going to hold Matt a little bit more accountable than just saying an improvement in some technology, though. Like, do you think there'll be a real world use case for it? Or
no, I think it'll still be in the laboratory, but it will be a good step forward that it will kind of transform the next generation of the way we think about it. So if you kind of think like, how do I word this?
Like a different way of approaching it, sort of a revised vision of how we can achieve the same thing, but maybe not with, near absolute zero quantum computers in a basement someplace.
Right. And it's not going to be like, consumer grade or anything else like that, but it will be, hey, we've taken a big step forward. Now, granted, there might still be 15 more after that, but it'll be a good step forward to say, okay, we've solved this thing, like you said, like the near zero or whatever the thing that they are able to solve is, and be able to, then you'll start to see, the incremental improvements until the next big step forward. I'm waiting to see how Claude next year decides if I win a point for that or not.
Yeah. I do sort of feel that the key to making AGI work is quantum computing. I sort of have this feeling in my brain that that's going to be the key thing to make that happen. But I'm curious because OpenAI and everyone else keeps saying they're close. But I feel like if you think about what the human brain can do and what, the ability, we can imagine infinite possibilities, which is something that quantum computing promises to do. And so combining that with a large language model type system, I think is how you get there. But again, if Marjana is not real and other quantum qubit stuff is not close, then it doesn't really matter at this point. But I think that's why AGI isn't a next year thing. It's probably within 10-year kind of problem. But it'll be interesting when it happens. All right, my next prediction for this time around, I'm going to go for my bad one. I expect we're going to see the first AI agent security breach. This will be an agent that basically breaches an organization and exfiltrates data automatically by itself without any interaction.
This is what keeps me up at night. Absolutely. This is trying to think through, emerging threats on technology that's I barely understand because it's coming out so fast and it's changing just the way we work. And so you're already starting to see AI in, attacks where, groups of people are using AI to put together some pretty sophisticated attacks on companies, right? They're easy. It's a lot easier for people that aren't natural language speakers to generate content for spear phishing. It's a lot easier for, malicious actors to have an AI agent go do a bunch of research on the company real quick and provide sort of the tailored, like, this is where I think it'll be weak. And so you're already starting to see that. So I fear, but I think you may be right.
Yeah, it's a whole new level of robocalling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I find it funny how basically within 3 months of ChatGPT coming out in existence, basically all phishing training was invalid.
Yeah.
It just it's crazy. So yeah, it's gonna get worse. We expect. All right, your second prediction, Ryan.
I think over 2026 that infrastructure as code is going to move to infrastructure as intent. So I think like we'll start, instead of sort of defining configuration for resources and cloud providers, it will be natural language. And so you'll ask for you won't ask for 100 servers. You will tell it your workload and what you want to achieve, and then the process will sort of continuously sort of optimize and provide that. I think we'll start seeing that pattern emerge in 2026.
All right. Jonathan, your second.
How many times are you going around it?
You get three total.
Yeah.
3 total. Okay. I think there will be an explosion this year of competition against existing SaaS companies. So, looking at what Claude can do and ChatGPT can do now in terms of autonomous coding that can last for days and days on end to recreate things. I'm absolutely convinced that if you don't want to pay GitHub.com for their service because you don't like them moving to Visual as a provider, I think you will very easily be able to ask an AI to build you a very GitHub-like service for your own use. I'm not saying you necessarily sell it to other people, but I think a lot of companies are going to lose a lot of business because people will recreate services that are already paying for using AI.
Yeah, I think we talked about this on an episode you weren't around for, but I kind of have this belief in that big companies, 100 million plus revenue companies, we're already building their own things. Like Meta builds their own load balancers, these type of things. And I think what happens in the AI world is that you see the barrier to entry maybe drop from $100 million revenue companies to $50 million revenue companies. But I still think there's a large amount of medium and smaller enterprises that just don't want to have to, even maintaining all of that code that agents generate and having to do it. They're not going to take the compliance risk. They're not going to want to take, maintaining it and doing all that stuff. And so while they could, and some might, I don't know that it's necessarily the end of SaaS as we know it, but I definitely think it changes the market dynamics dramatically.
Yeah, I don't think it's the end of SaaS for sure. There's always going to be compliance requirements. There's always going to be scaling and deployment things. But I'm just thinking, just in terms of general technology, we have a lot more things around the home now than we ever used to. We never used to have photocopiers. We used to have to go to the library or sneak into the office at work and copy some things. But now, so many people have got printers and scanners. You can scan with your phone or whatever. Technology just seems to filter down and down and down and become more commoditized. And I think that these tools are going to make software products, sort of put software products into that category as well. Make me something that works like GitHub, that I don't have to pay. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want it to do what it does. And I think that's going to have an impact on the industry. And I think it's a good thing because I think people will be able to build a lot more, we'll probably get a lot more innovation. But at the same time, I think it will impact the bottom line of some.
I think the key thing,
overpriced companies, because a lot of SaaS is very overpriced right now.
It is, yeah. I do think it's going to be interesting to how do the data that those SaaS companies have, like a Salesforce, and being able to know lead generation and some of the metrics and KPIs, and being able to make that data accessible to through agent to agent protocols, I think is really interesting. So we got a whole conversation with this because I thought about this a lot, working in the SaaS business. I've had a lot of thoughts about this different ways this might go, but I think there's, through MCP and agent to agent, I think that's how these companies start selling the data value that they have and that experience to then empower companies to build their own tooling and agents. And I think it's part of my next prediction, actually, which we'll get to when I get to it, but we'll talk about it in a minute. But I think it's a good one. Matt, you're up.
So I feel like we're kind of seeing this now, but I'm going to predict there's another kind of more micro hyperscaler that pops up. So I'll explain a little bit what I'm thinking, but you have DigitalOcean and they kind of do general cloud, general. Here's a small server for that. Can do whatever, and they have a very specific market segment. I predict another one, like a DigitalOcean competitor, but like something that's gonna like be a little bit more niche. Whether it's gonna be all we do is GPUs, or all we do is something else. Was it Rackblaze only does storage? Like a specific niche that comes out.
So I mean, there are a couple of hyperscalers who I keep track of right now who are purpose built for AI, but I specifically think you need to quantify this to like, what do you mean, like from a size perspective? Because like I think they exist. The question is, do you think one of them becomes a competitive to like Oracle or a solid number 5 above Linode or DigitalOcean, or like
I think it comes
quantify it. So.
Around the same level as DigitalOcean.
Okay.
Well, we already got like Core. I mean, you're talking about like CoreWeave.
I was thinking
Wonderlab and
Crusoe.
people like that.
I think Crusoe and CoreWeave are the two that come to mind for AI specific cloud.
Yeah.
I don't know what their revenue is these days, because I think they're both private.
But I think we'll see someone come up, whether it's AI specific or not. But I feel like right now the world is still AI specific. So, we'll go with AI.
Well, so according to Gemini, CoreWeave is 5.1 billion to 5.3 billion in projected revenue in 2025. Where DigitalOcean was 870 million, and Crusoe was 500 million. So we'll have to see.
I don't think I'm gonna win on that one, but I think it'll be fun.
Sorry.
I think it'll be fun to have another.
I think it's already happened. I
think
we're just not covering it enough here at the CloudPod. I think it's really the truth of what we just discovered.
Maybe that's what it is.
I'll maybe start pulling in more CoreWeave stories. It's been on my radar to do. I just haven't had time to get through. All right. So kind of alluding to what we're just talking about with the SaaS thing. So the internet was designed by people and education to basically provide data to humans. And so then, of course, the marketing companies all abuse that by now trying to monetize eyeballs into marketing dollars and ad spend. And so I think this is probably the year that we start seeing agent first design start creeping into major e-commerce sites and major websites. The idea that instead of fighting the AI and them crawling your website, that you want to actually take advantage of AI to help sell your products, help to do things, and transactions that don't require humans. And so I think we see the beginning of the AI designed web in 2026 coming out in a big way, and start to see it more and more in conversation.
Yep. That's one of mine. So thanks.
I'm trying to decide if that's one of mine, because I have a couple different angles. Which am I next?
You are next.
I can just sidle into that then, because I was very close. I was thinking we'll see, like a full stack, generative media platform that does, the text to image, image to video, text to speech, music, the whole thing, where, enterprises will be able to sort of upload their brand guidelines, and it would, automatically output, the full sort of content management system, and then also with built-in provenance tracking. So, generated content would have, watermarking that would distinguish it is, both as, the ownership of it, but also AI generated.
So Soros, but owned by an entity. Because we talked about Disney licensing their stack to Soro, so you can basically go have.
It's more about the tooling.
More tooling. Okay.
So because right now, like you can do, you can have, Nano Banana generate an image. You can have Veo create a video, but you have to stitch it all together yourself. Where I think that we'll start to see tooling that sort of puts it all out there together.
Yeah. Yeah, along Justin's lines, I was thinking, I'm not going to use this as my prediction. I was just thinking how the clawboard web Chrome plugin really highlights the problem with agents actually interacting with things that were designed for humans. And so find this button, click here, do this thing. And they even trying to figure out how to do those things they got access to the whole document model in the browser, but even just figuring out, well, where is this button the user's talking about when they're saying it's above the title right there? Well, where the hell's that in the code? It could be anywhere. And so we've been through this whole SEO process. We have metadata in the pages and everything. I think we're going to have an agent optimization system, where we kind of define intents in the page. This is how an agent would do this. This is how an agent should order a Starbucks through the app if the user's got a local AI assistant on their phone, for example, so that those hooks are there and well presented, so that the agents can perform actions on behalf of users. That is not my prediction.
That should be, though. I think that's pretty cool. That's almost like, like lightweight MCPs but like at a website, a page, sort of.
Yeah,
level.
it could be pages, could be mobile apps, it could be anything. But I think we're going to start seeing very declarative ways for agents to interact with systems that were previously designed for humans. I should make that one of my things. It's slightly different from Justin's. Whatever, maybe I'll have that as a bonus point for when I win all 4 points next year.
All right, so then what do you want your last prediction to be?
My last prediction is this year we will release an entirely AI generated podcast episode.
It was a wise choice, because he could have gone for like, I'll be at more than 50% of the episodes this year, and he would like, this is how he's going to do it.
I think he would still win the point, though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, just again, if I just like swipe in and then leave again. I don't know.
I mean, that's how their RTO policies work, right?
Can I just give you my card?
Can you coffee badge into a podcast?
Can I just give you my voice?
I mean, that's so the service I'm using for the transcripts now. They have that ability. I can take your audio samples and I could just have it generate from text the podcast. So we could, but I feel like we'd lose a little something. But
oh, it definitely would. Yeah. I've been playing around with Microsoft released a speech synthesizer thing. I've been playing around with voice cloning, which isn't good enough yet by any means. But I think it'd be really interesting to try and do a good AI generated podcast test.
I think it would be fun. I would do it as an experiment.
Yeah. I'm not saying it would be a regular episode.
I just want to see what it would be like. But
until our users get back to us that it's better, then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Then we're screwed. All right. Well, that's fantastic. Back in 2025. And I hope our predictions come mostly true. Not the bad ones, but the rest of them. So we'll see how we do. We will keep track as we do every year. And we'll look back in December or January next year. So all good. All right, guys. Have another fantastic week here in the cloud.
Another fantastic year.
Happy New Year.
And that's all for this week in cloud. Head over to our website at thecloudpod.net, where you can subscribe to our newsletter, join our Slack community, send us your feedback, and ask any questions you might have. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.